And for those of you who still have not subscribed to Signal, kumuha na kayo para meron na kayong NBA. Marami pa kayong bagong programa. Nonetheless, you can still watch us via facebook.com/OneNewsPH and on YouTube, OneNewsPH. Okay, today, we're going to have the usual mix-up of guests. We always try our best not to just focus on one topic. We try to get different topics or different concerns for different sectors. And today we will be speaking with a congresswoman who is a victim. Na biktima po siya nung away-away sa Kongreso. She was heading the Committee for Economic Affairs, and suddenly she had no committee, and she raises the question, why are innocent bystanders getting taken down by the fight between Cayetano and Velasco? We'll find out. And also, let's ask her about the concerns of the Senate na pag hindi naayos itong problema agad, we will end up with a government national budget appropriation that will be prone to corruption and irregularities. We will be speaking to Congresswoman Sharon Garin of the AAMBIS-OWA Party-list. Okay, hindi ko na po sasabihin yung buong ibig sabihin ng AAMBIS kasi Bisaya man, ay nako baka awayin ako ng mga Bisaya pag balok-baloktot yung Bisaya ko. Then we will speak with the National Manager, Federation of Free Farmers, Mr. Raul Montemayor, and pag-uusapan po natin yung maraming hindi nakakaalam na ang presyo ng bigas sa magsasaka, binibili na lang ng 12 pesos. I found out about this last night while I was attending my Bible study, and one of my friends who is a rice trader, medyo na-shock siya. Sabi niya, Kuyang, we buy the rice because he sells black rice, and we'll try to get him on the show next week. He sells black rice to a lot of us. It's a very healthy type of rice. And he buys them at 25 per kilo wet from the farmers, yung hindi pa napapatuyo, no? Eh, malaman-laman niya yung mga iba palang mga traders, binibili na lang ng 12 pesos yung regular rice. Okay? Eh, yung regular na ani, yung palay, eh nako po, ito na ang problema natin. Ano pa ang ikabubuhay ng mga magsasaka pagka ganyang winawalang yan ang presyo ng bigas, okay? And then after that, we will speak to a regular of Agenda, Dr. Beaver Tamesis, who is the President and Managing Director of MSD Philippines, and also the President of the Pharmaceutical Healthcare Association of the Philippines, or PHAP, at mapag-usapan natin yung how is life under COVID for a multinational corporation such as MSD in the pharmaceuticals field. And may pag-asa pa ba yung sinasabing vaccine na yan? A lot of people are still pinning their hopes on that. Ako, medyo move on na kayo. In any case, we'll be talking about all of these topics and more. And for the meantime, allow me to go into the stories on the front page of the Philippine Star. Here we go. Senators warned that the government may operate on a corruption-prone reenacted budget next year due to the lack of time for Congress to pass the proposed 4.5 trillion national budget as the leadership fiasco continues at the lower house. Senate President Tito Soto said the House move to immediately suspend session on Monday meant that the Senate has only about 4 weeks to do the same and for both chambers to come up with a consolidated version. The House was expected to pass the budget on third and final reading on October 14 and submit what is called the General Appropriations Bill, We will speak with AAMBIS-OWA Party-list Representative Sharon Garin to get the latest at the lower house. Now, just a short comment, baka marami sa inyo hindi naintindihan. Kumbaga, ang mangyayari dito, parang kinapos o kakapusin ng oras yung Senado to study this proposed budget coming from the House and para kanilang himay-himayin. Parang ano yan, ang laro dyan, force to good. Kumbaga, bibigay mo yung programa, last 2 minutes, tapos asahan mo na mahihimay ng Senado. Medyo naintindihan ko po yung sentimento ni Senate President Tito Soto, ay sana naman wag silang pumayag na magkalintik-lintikan niyang budget na yan. In any case, we'll find out later. Next news, ito yung malungkot, close to 3.5 million workers nationwide have lost their jobs or suffered reduction in pay due to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Labor Department, despite this, Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said the country's employment situation is now showing signs of improvement as more companies are now beginning to resume operations. Nationwide, job displacement reached its peak in June, with over 50,000 workers affected by the pandemic. June pa lang yan. That number has since dropped to a monthly average of 37,000 na nawawalan ng trabaho. Okay, so yan po, no? So, hindi po isip-isip, hindi po imaginary itong mga job losses. Let's all be sensitive. Let's all be aware of friends, of people we know who may have lost jobs. And kung makakatulong tayo, tumulong po tayo because right now, that's the only way we can help others get out of this rut. And always remember, don't think of what you're giving out. Think of the children, think of the families you're helping when you help someone who has lost a job. Okay. In line with these job losses, President Rodrigo Duterte and his cabinet are set to discuss the further reopening of the economy. Economic managers and cabinet members, such as Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III and Ramon Lopez, have been pushing for the resumption of business and industries. Malacanang said the cabinet will discuss how to best take care of the public health while reopening the economy. In other news, the Health Department reported that only a small portion of the 2 billion pesos worth of expiring drugs and medical supplies have yet to be distributed. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said that of this number, 1 billion pesos worth of products have already been distributed. Aside from that, 815 million pesos worth of slow-moving commodities have also been given away, with only 322 million pesos worth of goods still undergoing distribution. Ayan na po, kasi alam ninyo, tamang-tama, mag-interview natin mamaya si Dr. Beaver Tamesis, and let's find out what his view is regarding this annual discovery, annual announcements and corrections regarding itong mga overstock na mga gamot dyan sa DOH. Taon na lang po yan. In fact, I remember the PHAP, the Pharmaceuticals Association, when they were trying to negotiate on the price control mechanisms of Secretary Duque, nagsuggest nga sila na kung gusto ninyo, walang expiry. Gawa natin ng paraan. Minamanage namin yung mga bilang ng produkto ninyo, supply, etc. Pero parang inisnab ang beauty ng PHAP at tinuloy ng DOH. Iyan, taon-taon ganyan ang mangyayari. Anyway, Those are the major stories on the front page of the Philippine Star. Before we go to the interview, mayroon lang akong babanggitin dito. Apparently, there's some confusion regarding foreigners coming into the country, particularly yung mga asawa ng mga Pinoy o Pinay na akala nila katulad ng dati that you can come into the Philippines without a visa because you're married to a local. Apparently, everyone is now required to have a visa. So if you are you have a foreign spouse who does not have a permanent residency visa, etc., please check with the Bureau of Immigration at baka nako, ma-high blood kayo pag hinarang yung Mr. o Mrs. nyo doon sa immigration. Okay. Let's go to our first interview for the day. She is on her third term as Congresswoman representative of the ang Asosasyon sang Mangunguma nga Bisaya OWA or AAMBIS-OWA Party-list. She was chairperson of the House Committee on Economic Affairs bago siya nakudeta. Let's speak to Congresswoman Sharon Garin. Congresswoman, good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Congress Sharon. Anyari, what happened to you? I mean, from what I heard, you were quietly doing your work, and suddenly you were unceremoniously told out. What's going on?
Good morning, Cito. No naman. I'm actually a supporter of Lord Allan Velasco. So, but I'm not naman a victim. I'm not an innocent victim.
Okay.
I mean, I've been, but same thing na rin. I mean, it's a fight between two distinguished gentlemen. And it is quite a difficult time for congressmen right now. Na medyo maiipit ka rin nga naman. Pero yes, it's all a result of the squabble for the speakership. And I'm one of the casualties of war.
Okay, I mean, politics is politics and it does happen. But for the benefit of our viewers, what is the state of relations among members of Congress? Because, you know, most of us are confined to quarters, so to speak. So, hindi na kami nakakasagap ng balita. We're not getting the details of a situation. Pero, has it reached a point of outright animosity where the people have drawn the line and said you are either for us or against us, and talaga bang personal na ang away sa Kongreso, or can you still salvage the situation?
In some levels, yes, because I guess the closer you are to the candidate, the fiercer you get. But I think for the majority, they would rather stay out of the crossfire. Kasi mahirap naman talaga eh. Because if you remember in 2019, we had this also. And it was quite difficult for everyone. But at the end of the day, you know, we only vote for the same person to become speaker. Because eventually it gets resolved. And so I think many of us have learned our lesson already. Na wag mong sobrang dibdibin. Kasi eventually it's just a fight between those who are interested in the position. So it affects maybe socially or politically, but not to a degree that was as intense as before. Kasi nadaanan ako, I've been last term, di ba? Nagkaroon din kami ng medyo kudeta din. So this is like the fourth speakership fight that I've had for the last two terms. Kaya medyo we're getting there. We're getting used to it, but it's a very difficult situation for us.
Okay, now is this an issue really of the speakership or political ambitions of one person or one group eyeing the presidency in 2022?
I would not discount that, but it is possible. But the motivations are I don't know. I mean, Speaker Cayetano can have his own motivations, or his motivation can be just to continue his leadership in Congress. Lord the same. He might just be simply just to support the president as speaker in the next 2 years. But how it is being dragged right now, it's some events are quite difficult to comprehend, no? Yung mga
Mhm.
nangyayari.
Yeah.
Medyo pati ako nga nako-confuse eh. But I guess that I don't blame the people for thinking that way.
Okay, now there has been a lot of talk. In fact, one of our guests yesterday, Attorney Jimmy Policarpio, who has been a veteran of Congress, Senate in Malacanang as a consultant and legislative liaison, sabi niya na dapat bantayan itong budget more than anything. He said, forget the speakership, pay close attention to the budget because that's where suspicious things are going to happen. And Senate President Tito Soto has said in no uncertain terms that a reenacted budget will be prone to corruption.
Yes.
What is your position on the matter?
All right. The usual procedure kasi once it gets to the plenary, then you discuss there are there's a general discussion, and then later you go department by department. Now, it was cut short.
Mhm.
There's the department by department discussion was cut short kasi di-discuss mo yan, magdi-debate, magdi-defend yung vice chair ng APRO, and then you close the debate, and later you close the whole thing, amendments and all that. So it's a long process.
Mhm.
Now, kung titignan mo kasi, what happened was it was cut short. We didn't finish all the agencies. In fact, all the major agencies are still pending at that time. DPWH, TSWD, COMELEC, DFA, DOTR, DepEd, DOH, halos lahat.
Mhm.
Based on the rules, our rules of the House, no? You can do naman, since if a bill was debated already by 3 in favor and 2 against, basta may minimum yan, you can close the debate already. But we've never, imposed that kind of law, of rule on a topic that is so sensitive as the budget. Kaya
Mhm.
unprecedented to. I've been in Congress for 10 years and I've never seen this happen in Congress before. Kaya I mean, tama ka. The concern is not the speakership, because that will just, resolve itself eventually. Pero
Mhm.
let's not drag the whole country to this problem. Kasi this budget is very special di ba? Kasi
Yeah.
may COVID response tayo naka-embed dyan. And we should see that it's embedded there. Not just buhos lang in one department, or baka hindi naman siya responsive. That we don't know. Because we should have discussed that on the floor. And by discussing on the floor, the congressmen are aware, the media is there, public is aware. So it's the transparency also that was sacrificed. So I would like to, Congress to finish this. It's our responsibility. That's
Mhm.
the major responsibility of Congress. And we should not just do that as quickly as possible. Quality work naman.
Okay, now that's a good point. Quality work. But what do you believe is the motivation to do this? Because on one hand, I could say maybe Alan Peter or Speaker Cayetano fast tracked, if not railroaded, this second hearing para lang masabi kay Presidente Duterte, ayan sir, I delivered what you wanted. But is this horse trading of a different kind where you just give everything that Malacanang wanted just to ensure that you get to stay as speaker? Or are there other things we should look into as far as the fast tracking of the transparency and deliberation of the budget?
Well, when he made a speech before moving to close the debates now and
Mm.
approve the second reading, he said something in his speech na sinasabi ng iba dyan na hino-hold up ko yung budget. O sige, to prove, I moved to close the debates on the budget. So,
Mhm.
kinose siya. So, I mean, that were his words during the ano. So, I guess he was just proving na he can do it as fast despite the circus that is going around. So, what happens now? There was also another motion to create a special committee, like a super committee actually, that
Mm.
will go through the budget uh, after it was suspended, and that's led by several people, around 10 people, I think, that
Yeah.
will do the amendments or the changes or the annexes or whatever they determine, so that when they present it to the House again when we come back in session, then it will be a different version as changed already by that committee.
Mhm.
Medyo I'm not sure if that is a correct procedure, kasi once you close a bill on second reading, tapos na yan eh. You go on third reading, malinis na siya. No changes anymore. Second reading, you approve. Tapos pagka third reading mo, wala nang debate, wala nang changes. You just present it on the floor for approval.
Ministerial na lang yung third reading, parang formality
Three,
na lang yun.
well, you're given 3 days para mabasa
Mhm.
mo yung malinis na all the amendments are in already, di ba? Kasi magdedebate pa kayo and then you make amendments. Then once it's closed, piprint yan. And then that's the final copy already. That's
Yeah.
the final copy will be presented to the floor for third reading. Now, usually yung wala nang changes. And this one, nag-create pa ng committee.
Yun,
Hindi ko lang naintindihan yan.
well, actually, that was going to be my question because, Speaker Cayetano said, all discussions are over. This is passed on second reading. So, and then, biglang sabi, we move for a super committee to review all of this. So parang, you put the cart in front of the horse o kumbaga, sinabi mo tapos na. Pagkatapos biglang sasabihin mo, gagawa ka ng table of judges o committee.
Kasi once you approve, when that was approved, it was approved as is. No? Kung anong na-file na bill, kasi bill yan yung budget, di ba?
Mm.
So it was approved as is. So meaning, we approved the bill as presented by the proponent, more so on the executive, no? Usually niya kasi discussion, you amend it para, you create an improved version. Kasi you get feedbacks from the congressman and you make the changes. Pero dahil hindi kami umabot sa period of amendments, so as is siya, as originally filed. Parang ganun yung nangyari, di ba? Tapos,
Yeah.
ngayon, may committee lang nagagawa ng changes, which I'm not sure. I don't know if they've met or ano, because it hasn't been broadcasted either.
Well, matanong ko lang, Congresswoman, and I'm doing this in Tagalog para yung iba ring nasa ibang probinsya maintindihan. Ano?
Ilonggo ako, mahina yung Tagalog ko.
May na ba yung Tagalog mo?
Kailangan ko lang.
Okay, but in any case, no, kasi there was a first hearing, right? A first session, tapos may second, tapos dapat yung third and final reading. Dun ba sa first reading, if that's how you call it, nahimay na? Could you honestly say there was actually work done during the first session, first hearing, etc.?
Chairman Eric Yap of Committee na APRO has done it naman. Kasi stages yan eh. Kaya matagal yung proseso ng batas. Kasi first reading, meaning the first part, let's just say, is you go to the committee. Ang committee magde-deliberation. So they've done that already.
Okay.
And then, once the committee approves it, then you present to the floor. And that's where, once you present to the floor, do the amendments and all that, then yun yung gagawa ka ng second reading. So it goes
yung sa committee is, they check if form and substance, di ba? It is more of paano ba pinresent ng Malacanang at in-endorse ng congressman sa committee. So, hindi ito yung, hindi binubulat-lat or hinihimay. Okay na yung forma niyan, yung content, sige, submit na yan sa floor for the second reading.
No naman. It's being discussed thoroughly. We discuss it. Dinidiscuss naman yan because I guess people are more familiar with yung mga impeachment or no. Kasi basta-basta standard is re-review ng committee can make changes or
Uh-huh.
discuss it, and it's naman extensive naman.
Mhm.
That's the usual practice naman in the House, and I think Chairman Yap has done that already. Finished na
So,
naman yan. So
so
again, as a body as a whole,
mm,
no? Yung buong kongreso na, yung sumalaki na namin kwarto, sa plenary na, we
mm,
discuss it all together. Before kasi
okay.
committee lang. Ngayon, buong kongreso na, all 300 of us can participate, interpolate, or whatever you want. So, yun yung stage na nakat na.
But that never happened technically.
Kasi, if you just base it in the rules, you can argue that, yes, there were 3 already that interpolated. But usually naman kasi, this is our budget. And we do it very extensively and very
Mm,
publicly. So,
mm,
transparent lahat. No? People
yeah.
will know ilang hospital ang lalagay ng DOH,
Mm,
kung may increase ba sa salary ng or kung may ilan yung roads and bridges and all that. It's discussed openly on plenary, sa plenary, para alam lahat ng members and alam ng buong public. But
so,
that was cut short. We started siguro mga 1 week or so, and
mhm,
then it was cut off, and many of the are not kasi kino-close lang sana ang debate per agency yan eh. Ngayon,
mhm,
across the board, kinose lang, and we still have like DNR, DAR, COA, PCOO.
mhm,
PCOO, di ba? Mahahaba sana yung discussion kasi Makabayan block have been questioning them over and over again, DOF, DND, DILG. There you
mm,
can even question about, di ba, yung what's happening with the LSIs,
mhm.
about the COVID response ng mga LGUs. Many topics for DOH. I mean, that's a major topic to discuss. Or DPWH, since it's an economic stimulus, in a
Mhm.
sense, yung infrastructure. It should be, kasi sa akin lang naman, Cito, this is, we had Bayanihan 1, we had
Yeah,
Bayanihan 2 in response to COVID, in a way that the immediate response as well as hopefully stimulus,
yeah.
because may mga dinagdag doon na pautang or grants. And for me, and I think we've discussed this with all the economic managers as well yung mga clusters namin sa Congress. That 2021 budget should have the Bayanihan 3. Dapat
Mm,
embedded na yun doon. Kaya malaki
correct.
yung budget ngayon eh. Kasi ang rationale is, we have the regular budget for all their projects or programs of government, but we also have to add there what we need for COVID. So, not only for the health, but also for the economic recovery.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried because what's
Me
going to
too.
happen? Well, I mean, more so me, I think, because, I've seen this before, na nagkaroon ng reenacted budget. And because of this reenacted budget fiasco, if you recall, Congresswoman, parang marami yung mga projects ng gobyerno hindi naka-take off for 1 quarter. And it set us back economically, growth forecast, loans, expansion projects. Parang pati mga kumpanya tinamaan. Kasi most people think, hindi, gobyerno lang yan. Hindi, pero pag hindi nakagastos ang gobyerno, yung private sector, hindi rin makaabante. And I'm worried of what Tito Soto or Senate President Soto was saying. If we have a reenacted budget, number one, I'm worried about reenacted budgets because it's not going to cover Bayanihan 3. And also, I'm worried of what he said that it would be corruption prone. Anong reaction niyo doon?
He has enough reason to think that,
Mhm.
and yes, it's we've had a few reenacted budgets, and maraming delays, no, maraming epekto. If you think really about the budget, how do you come up with the numbers? Kasi marami pa yung background research eh. Okay, we want a target like this, gusto natin, growth natin ganyan, then we need to spend this much on this kind of sector. Ganun lang
Mm.
naman yun, no? There's a macro economic side to it. And so, may may variables yan na for us to attain a certain objective. Now, if it's reenacted, it's the variables are the previous year. So
Mm.
ngayon, especially this year, COVID happened. It has to change drastically. Kasi our priorities, our programs will really change. Kaya hindi siya responsive. And that's what I've been saying na okay naman yung mabilis, the swift passage, but
Mm.
we can do better than that. We can do a swift passage of the budget, but we need to have responsive budget and a transparent budget. Kaya natin gawin yan. If the congressmen work hard on budget season na minsan yan, 4:00 na natapos yung session, on which they don't mind because this is the primary responsibility of this body to the
Mhm.
country kasi kami ngayon nag-a-approve and determine the budget. So it's scary. Me too. I mean, it worries me because it is a very very important budget, and a reenacted budget would other than cause many problems in our implementation and all that, but it won't be responsive to what we need. Kaya yes, it will affect our economy if that happens.
Okay, I don't want to touch on, I don't want to touch fresh wounds, but you've been removed as a committee chairperson of the Committee on Economics. Ngayon, ang tanong, how does this power play in Congress affect the people who are not with Speaker Cayetano? Are you expecting that in 2021 yung mga districts ninyo ay maghihirap, mawawala ng pondo, etc., etc.? Because that has happened time and again in past administrations, past speakerships, na pag nagkaroon ng leadership, merong mga tinitiris at ginugutom.
Merong binabawasan, meron ding dinadagdagan, no?
Mm, mm.
That could happen. But I do hope that it doesn't because not it's not a punishment to me, but a punishment to the people that I represent.
Mm.
Like me, I've had 400,000 votes, and to a sector that I represent, then to deprive my sector of that assistance from government would be unfair naman sa mga constituents, or like the district, no? Kung
Mm.
isiro mo yung isang distrito, it's not the congressman that suffers. It's the people that are supposed to enjoy the benefits of the services of the government, which are our constituents. But I do hope and pray that that won't happen. It
Mhm.
has happened, but I think more both Cayetano and Velasco are gentlemen, and I
Mhm.
do hope and pray that they will do the right thing for the country.
Okay. My last question, I suppose, Congresswoman, I don't want to take up so much of your time, but what does the situation look like now? Because I read in the news that the Velasco camp has started collecting signatures, a statement of support, although parang na weird ako, no, to figure of speech, parang na weird ako na parang hindi nila masabi kung sino sila. uh, there seems to be a culture of fear and retribution, so much so that these supporters of Congressman Velasco can't even come out in the open and say who they are.
Well, you have to understand, we are, it's not just us eh. Hindi
Mhm.
kaming congressman lang, If you do make a decision, you are dragging with you your constituents. And the
Mhm.
priority of a congressman is to take care of their constituents. And if not, then you won't be back the next term.
Mhm.
Kaya I can understand that. The budget is being discussed now, determined now. So whoever's sitting now has bigger influence on your budget. Not
Mhm.
just you as the representative, but also the whole system in Congress, no? Kaya I can understand that they don't want naman to what they're supposed to deliver to their constituents to be affected. Kasi first and foremost, this is not the most important factor for a congressman to serve or to win. no?
Mhm.
The main thing is that what they deliver, hindi yung speakership fight.
Mhm.
So their priorities, I understand. I totally understand that. Uh, ang maybe I'm probably me. I'm risking a lot for doing this.
Mhm.
Pero you
Well,
know, I,
let me say, let me say without a hesitation, I admire that you have the courage to be public about your position and your stance. Because I mean, in a world where so many people are compromised, are so like pussyfooting, don't know where they position to take. Parang I admire that you're out in the open as far as that's
well,
concerned.
I'll remember that when I start thinking, getting worried about this. But I mean, I was in Malacanang when okay.
Mm,
I was a supporter of Velasco before back in 2019
mm,
already. Now, so they came up with a gentleman's agreement, and then fine. I mean, if that's the agreement, then fine. And then I've served the Speaker Cayetano dutifully naman, because more than the speaker himself or the person, the institution I really like it. No, we can really do
mm,
a lot in the institution. I've been there for almost a decade already. Kaya I'm loyal. I really work hard to give this institution a good name. Now,
mm,
come the 1521 transition, we go to Malacanang, and the president again reaffirms honoring the agreement. Kaya what choice do I have? It's already the president who has said it in front of me, and
mm.
just because there's more benefits, whatever, or kung ano man yung mga other reasons of that I should support Cayetano, but I cannot abandon naman uh, a person
Velasco.
that I've helped push for speakership in the earth. Na iiwanan ko lang siya. No, I cannot do that. And I think despite the risks and all that, I mean, I at least I can sleep better at night.
Okay,
Yun ang
there's this lingering question that I just really have to ask. A super committee has been put up by Speaker Cayetano to address the analysis, the evaluation of the budget. Pero I also got the impression listening to him na these 10 people plus or minus are going to sit there, and the congressmen and women will be going before this committee to find out about appropriations for their district. I hope I got that correctly, and if I didn't, please correct me.
You're
And
absolutely correct.
okay, in that system, do you expect fairness and equality since you are not with the supermajority? Parang sabi ko, kayo ngayon ang pupunta doon with the begging bowl. Do you believe there is integrity, fairness, and equality among that body within the super committee?
Let's just put it this way. I do hope so, and we will see in the results anyway. No,
Mhm.
because that's their responsibility. But yes, you have to go there and submit your listing, and it will be up to that committee to how much or to accept or to reject your. There's a lot of power in that committee, and
Mhm.
I would like to keep the faith na they'll do it. They'll make a fair budget, transparent budget,
Mhm.
and a responsive budget. But that we can check naman eventually when it becomes third reading, which it's difficult also to say no to kasi final na yan eh, no?
Mhm.
You can't really change a bill presented to you on third reading kasi wala nang papalitan. So it is quite powerful, um, quite unusual actually.
Mhm.
So it's basically a committee that will filter whatever or determine how much you get. Not the
But
whole
is that
budget, but a
but
committee.
is that committee a legal committee? Because you've already closed the second reading. You put up a committee to review, and that committee essentially is tasked to submit for final reading, the third and final reading. Parang
All right.
uh,
There's when it comes to rules in the house, there's nothing naman legal or illegal because the majority can always change the rules.
mm,
You know.
mhm,
But
mhm,
there's always the practices, the traditions, and public your legislative responsibility, no? In terms of, if you go by the book, then fine, you can do that.
Mhm.
Kung nag-rule yung majority, no? In fact, they can do away with whatever, like second reading or whatever stage that we usually do. But you have to balance it then. Hindi naman na you just amend it so that it will be prone to abuse, no?
Okay.
Kaya legally, that's easy to justify. But as a public servant, then that's the question. You have to give due respect to the people that you serve, and that is by giving them a responsive and a transparent, a fair budget. And I do hope for this country na mabibigay yan. And that's why I understand the concern of Senate President Soto.
Okay. Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And I do hope that cooler heads prevail. I hope that sanity returns to Congress. And at the end of the day, all of you end up doing what all of you has sworn to do, and it is to represent your constituents. Thank you, and God bless you,
Thank
Congresswoman.
you. Maraming salamat. Thank you.
Okay, yan po si Congresswoman Sharon Garin of the AAMBIS-OWA Party-list. And dinig nyo na, medyo komplikado, pero because Congress can, with a supermajority, make up the rules as they go along, as long as walang talagang blatantly illegal, ay pwede naman gawin yung ginagawa nila ngayon. Ang tanong lang, I think at the end of the day, quite honestly, the speakership, whoever wants it can have it. But as everyone I've talked to this week has pointed out, we need to make sure that that budget, the 2021 budget, is corruption-free, is delivered on time, goes through the Senate, the fine-tooth comb of the Senate, and kumbaga hati ang kapatid, hindi yung sabagay, mahirap din sabihin yung hati ang kapatid kasi sa bansa natin may mga kapatid na timawa, may mga kapatid na magulang. Sana naman yung mga kapatid nyo hindi ganyan, ano? Pero in Congress, I'm just praying that there would be fairness, equality, magnanimity, and at the end of the day, integrity as far as that budget is concerned. We will go for a quick break, and when we come back, medyo pag-usapan natin, talakayan natin ang isang napakalungkot na discovery na akala ko sabi-sabi lang, katotohanan na pala, na yung bigas, yung palay, ay binibili na ng 12 pesos per kilo sa magsasaka. Aba, medyo foul na yata. I'll give you the full story when we come back here on Agenda. Okay, you're back here on Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, and you are watching us via Signal TV, channels 8 and 250, as well as facebook.com/OneNewsPH and YouTube OneNewsPH. Okay. Kahapon po, habang ako ay nag-attend ng aking Bible study, yung isang member namin sa grupo ay nagkukwento siya na binenta niya yung kanyang big bike. Sabi ko, "Bakit? Anong nangyari?" Sabi niya, "Kasi kuyang, I had to raise funds, for the purchase of palay." Sabi, "Bakit? Bibili kang bulto?" "Hindi kuyang, I have to keep my commitment to buy wet palay at 25 per kilo, yung black rice na wet palay. I needed the money and nung nakipag-meeting siya doon sa mga farmers na kakontrata niya, akala nung farmers pati siya ay bibili na rin ng palay at 12 pesos dahil gano'n na raw po ang presyo ng palay doon sa lugar. And sinabi niya, hindi po. Kami po ay nagsabi sa inyo na 25 pesos per kilo namin bibilin, 25 pesos po namin bibilin. Kasi kami po sa Every Nation, sa Victory, our training is if you give your word, you stay by it. You stand by it. Your word is your bond. Yan po, through many years that I have been attending our church, that is one of the, kumbaga, pillars that I live by. And even, yung sinasabi ng pastors namin, even if it costs you, even if it is inconvenient, even to the point of pain, if you gave your word, you stand by your word. Kanina nga, di ba, sabi ni Sharon Garin, aba, kasama ko yang si Congressman Velasco, sinuportahan ko yan, alam nga namang iwanan ko siya. Same thing with my friend Obet de Villa, sinabi niyang 25 niya bibilin, pinanindigan niya. And as a result, he sold his big bike, motorcycle, ewan ko kung ilang sa'yo, 1,000 plus cc yata yung bike niya o 900 cc. Binenta na lang niya at sabi niya, paninindigan ko yung sinabi ko. But, you know, while I was so how do you call it, parang medyo napabilib ako sa ginawa niya, medyo na-shock din ako na bumagsak na lang sa 12 pesos per kilo. Kasi hindi ba na kailan lang pinagmamalaki sa atin ng mga opisyal na mataas na ang bilihan ng bigas. Alamin po natin, let's find out from the National Manager of the Federation of Free Farmers, a registered peasant labor union, and he is also a Vice President of the International Federation of Agricultural Producers. Kausapin natin Mr. Raul Montemayor. Raul, good morning.
Magandang umaga, Sito, and good morning din sa mga tagapakinig mo.
Raul, thank you for joining us this morning. And alam mo, medyo malapit sa puso ko yung mga magsasaka, mga farmers. Ano ba nangyayari? Kasi nasyak ako kagabi nung kinuwento sa akin nung kaibigan ko na nagkakawalang yaan na raw sa presyo ng palay at ginagamit pati COVID-19 and pandemic na excuse ng mga traders para baratin yung ating mga magsasaka.
Yes, well, unang-una, totoo yung balita na mababa ang presyo ng palay, no? But I think it's also unfair, a little bit unfair to blame everything on the traders, no? Negosyante sila, no? So, ang nangyayari ngayon sa market is there are a lot of imports coming in very cheap, no? They are sold on a wholesale basis in the rice market. So, yung trader na bumibili ng palay, ibabase na yung presyo niya ng pambili doon sa presyo na ibibenta niya sa wholesaler. No? So when that wholesale price goes down because of imports, naturally, the trader will have to buy at a lower price. No? And then combine that with it's a main harvest season, so maraming supply, maulan, no? And maybe also COVID, difficulties in moving and transporting goods. So all that adds up to the low price. No? But I think the number one factor is the imports pa rin.
Pero Raul, I mean, I understand all the economic factors playing in, ano? Pero pare ko, 12 pesos per kilo. Parang ano pang kikitain ng magsasaka at 12 pesos? I mean, kumakain pa ba yung ating mga rice farmers at those prices?
Oo, hirap na at 12 pesos for what we would call ordinary farmers. It's a break-even price. No? Walang
Oh,
lugi siguro, walang kita. Walang ipapakain yan sa kanilang pamilya. No? And for about 40% of the farmers, it's a losing price. Lugi sila. No?
40% ng mga rice farmers lugi at
Yes.
12 pesos per kilo.
That is based on a study of field rice that at 12 pesos, 40% of farmers will be at a losing end now. And in fact, I would suppose now mas malaki pa dahil tumaas din ang presyo ng abono, ng pesticides, and other farm production costs. No? But it's a really very difficult situation for farmers, and it's the second year in a row, Cito. No? Last year, mas grabe pa. Mas bumagsak pa yung palay. Again,
Yeah.
because of imports. No?
Yeah, but Raul, I remember because of that first incident na bumagsak talaga yung presyo because of all that unrestrained importation, hindi ba yun yung unang impact ng liberalization ng rice,
Yes.
biglang nagbagsakan. I remember, pumasok yung Department of Agriculture, DTI, at sabi, teka, kailangan bibili tayo at 17 ba yun? Yung sabi nila, 17 or 18. Anyari, akala ko ba may solusyon ng gobyerno? Bakit nagkaganito na naman?
Yung government buying through NFA or LGUs, it won't work. No? Kasi it's a system-wide collapse of prices. No? You're talking of, in the second semester, about 12 million tons of palay. No? And the NFA can buy only about 400,000 tons of that. No? So, 5% lang halos yung ma-absorb ng NFA and LGUs. No? And of course, they will announce NFA buying at 19 pesos. You are buying at 25. No? Sasabihin ng farmer, uy, doon tayo magbenta kay Cito kasi 25 doon. No? Pero alam ng farmer, he can never sell to you because you're too far and you can accept only so much. No? It's the same story with NFA. It looks good on paper, pero alam ng farmer na bibihira yung makakapagbenta at 19. No? All of them will be forced to sell to the trader at 12.
Yeah, but I was under the impression that if there is a glut or an excess of supply in the market, which is what's happening dahil maraming import, tapos maganda yung ani, tapos may ulan pa, so talagang sumobra. Ang impression ko was that the government has a regulatory mechanism para mapigil yung mga imports dahil may oversupply. At saka sabi pa ni Presidente, I hope I'm quoting him correctly or I got the news right. I remember the President saying na lahat itong mga LGU dapat bibili from local farmers. Kasi nagiging issue na nga yan na maraming LGU na namimigay ng bigas ay bumibili dun sa mga wholesaler importer kasi may patong, merong cut.
Yeah. Well, una-una, under the law, there is no more restriction on the imports. No? So the DA or even the president cannot say stop imports during harvest time. That will be illegal under the law. No? There are other ways to do it, but the DA doesn't want to use those tools. No? Again, yung pamimili ng LGU, NFA, that will help. But the problem is too massive. No? Hindi kakayanin po ng LGU. And in fact, if the LGU buys above market, the chances are they will lose money when they sell the rice because the market for rice is very low. You are buying palay higher than market. Well, you be prepared ka dapat na malugi, no? So, and you know the whole philosophy of the rice tariffication law was take out government from the rice trade, no? Let the private sector run the business, no? And ngayon, they're asking LGU to come in, no? Parang baliktad doon sa philosophy ng rice liberalization program.
Okay, Raul, matanong ko lang kasi ito, pinrompt ako ng aming executive producer. May statement daw ang Department of Agriculture na hindi totoo yung bagsak presyo to 12 pesos per kilogram and dapat yung farm groups ay should stop spreading disinformation. Kasi ako, uunahan ko na po, no? Hindi po farm group yung kaibigan ko. Siya ay independent trader siya at nakita niya mismo. Now, as far as the federation is concerned, Raul, what's the situation? Kasi sinasabi ng DA, disinformation yan, hindi totoo. What's the real score on the ground
Well,
or price?
the DA is talking about theoretical prices, no? 19 pesos NFA buying, no? But like I said before, only 5% of farmers will be able to get that price, no? And the ordinary farmers will not be able to sell to NFA dahil when you sell to NFA, kailangan dry na yung palay mo to 14% moisture, clean, and delivered, no? And 95% of farmers will not be able to do that. 95% of farmers will be forced to sell to traders, not at 19, but at 12. That is the reality, no? So I don't know why they call us, blame us for saying exaggeration or fake news. I think sila yung nagpapakalat ng wrong picture of the situation, no? They're talking about here. Ikaw mismo, you talk to the farmers, they're selling 12, no? Bakit magsisinungaling yung farmer? Bakit hindi sila pakinggan ng mga ng DA, no?
Aba,
Why are they, yeah.
ang story nga, Raul, naiyak yung farmer nung sinabihan siya na, then di kami bibili ng 12, sabi namin 25. Naiyak yung magsasaka parang sabi na, hindi ho namin nakalaing itutuparin niyo yung napag-usapan.
Yes, o hulog ka ng langit, kung gano'n. Kasi, again, but you can only buy so much, no? So if you announce here, the price is 25, farmers will not believe you because they know you can only buy so much and they will have to bring the palay to you, no? So ganun po yung parang stance ng DA. They're painting a very different picture of reality, I think, no? And our problem is, if you do it that way, then parang hindi nila nire-recognize na may problema. And then they will not do anything, no? Because there's mataas naman ang presyo ng palay. What are you complaining about, no? And in the meantime, yun na nga, hirap na yung mga magsasaka.
Okay, so meron pa ba tayong magagawang solusyon dito? Kasi kanina while you were talking, I was saying to myself, baka pwedeng magkaroon tayo ng labeling. Yung imported must be, parang DTI law ba or DA and DTI gumawa sila ng batas na must label kung imported and kung local, di ba? Kasi meron tayong move with the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry na una local or local muna, etc. Uubra ba yun? Or ang Pilipino, wala talagang pakialam kung saan ang mura, doon sila pupunta, di ba? Ng may mga whatever.
I think so. And the government itself is saying, no, leave the market alone. No? Let the consumer decide. No? So, by this time, medyo late na. If the government acts, medyo late na kasi dumating na yung maraming imports and then you have the peak harvest season already. If ever you do something about imports now, it's a little bit too late. No? Yun ang isang kwan namin. No? The government knows that this happens every year. No? So instead of anticipating and preventing a collapse of prices, they wait for it to become very bad and then they start acting too little, too late. Yun ang parang hindi namin naiintindihan.
So there is no provision in the rice tarification law where government can actually freeze importation, preempt importation in anticipation of bumper crops, etc. Wala nun dito sa rice tarification law?
There is no. There is what they call the safeguards provision, which is that if there is too much imports already, there's an import surge, and it is harming farmers, like through low prices, then you can temporarily impose an additional tariff on imports. No?
Oo.
Nandun lang sa batas, no? But the DA doesn't want to use it. And then there is also a provision under WTO rules where you can even temporarily reimpose a freeze on imports, no? Under
Okay.
certain conditions. No? But the law, our rights verification law, made it illegal for government to do that. So parang government itself tied its own hands no? Through that law.
Okay, matanong ko lang, and I suppose this would be my last question, Raul. Kasi earlier, you said, wag naman nating ibuntong lahat ng sisi sa traders.
Okay.
Am I correct in my thinking? We now have two sets or two different types of traders in the Philippines. Na may isang trader, yung traditional rice trader na sila yung nagkakapital sa mga magsasaka, sila yung kumokontrata sa magsasaka at sila yung nagbebenta versus another set of yung tinatawag na mega trader na malalaking korporasyon, maraming kapital at nagpapasok ng bigas, wala silang risk katulad ng traditional traders at sila yung nakakasira ng merkado ngayon at buhay ng mga magsasaka?
Yes, definitely that is happening. In fact, if you talk to the traders, they will also complain against that rice tarification law because it is pushing them out of the business. No? Kung titignan kasi natin yung trader, of course, meron din nagsasamantala. No? But if the farmer dies because the price is too low, wala ring negosyo yung trader. Eh. Anong bibili niyang palay?
Yung traditional trader.
Yes. They have maybe a friend-enemy type of relationship, but it's parang symbiotic kasi each one feeds on the other. No? So I don't think the trader will find a way to or want to kill the farmer because patay din siya. No? I think you are correct. There is new breed of financiers who have no historical or traditional connection to the business, or just importing and making commissions out of the imports. No? They are the ones disrupting the traditional system. Wala naman kaming problema po sa imports. No? Ang sinasabi lang namin, let's import enough so that we don't have a shortage, but also try to prevent too much imports that they create a glut and harm the farmers. No? Can we not strike a balance there, no? So that we don't have this problem every year?
Okay, well, I think sooner than later, we are going to have to revisit the rice tarification liberalization law and put a stop to the damage that these corporate traders are creating on our traditional rice production and industry. Thank you very much, Raul, and please stay in touch. Let us know kung merong mga bagong concerns, and we support all our farmers out there. God bless you.
Salamat, Cito.
Okay, yan po si Ginoong Raul Montemayor at siya po ang National Manager ng Federation of Free Farmers, and I really don't know what to make of this situation, but the fact is we now have two sets of traders, yung traditional na kapitalista at mamimili ng mga ani ng magsasaka laban dito sa mga korporasyon at mga typhoon. Hindi tycoon, mga typhoon, mga lakas ang dating na sila na ngayon ang naghahari sa industriya ng bilihan ng bigas at pinapatay yung ating magsasaka. I hope that you people will speak out against this, because if we don't save our farmers, we also lose our rice traders, and eventually we will all be dependent on imports. At pag nagkaubusan ng bigas sa ASEAN region, naku po, ewan ko kung saan tayo kukuha ng bigas. Bagay, pag nawalan ng bigas, marami sa inyo mawawalan ng diabetes. Anyway, let's go for a quick break. When we return, let's speak to our friend Dr. Beaver Tamesis ng MSD, and let's find out yung Merck Sharp and Dome. Kamusta na ba buhay under COVID-19? What are the directions of the company? And what's it like running a company such as MSD? Here on Agenda. Welcome back to Agenda. You are watching us via Signal TV, channels 8 and 250, facebook.com/OneNewsPH, and on YouTube, OneNewsPH. Okay, let's bring in our third guest for the morning. He is the President and Managing Director of MSD Philippines, or Merck Sharp and Dome, Dr. Beaver Tamesis, a regular here on Agenda. Dr. Beaver, good morning.
Good morning, Cito. Nice to see you again.
You know, it's always nice to see that smile on your face, at least. I know that there's going to be some cheerful conversation. But Beaver, let me get into the meat of things, because, you know, we always talk about COVID, pandemic, vaccine, but we never get to talk about, companies in the Philippines like Merck, Sharp, and Dome. You're the president and managing director of MSD in the Philippines. Now,
Yes.
first of all, ano ba yung MSD na yan? Merck, Sharp, and Dome. Where do you guys come from? Kasi sabi ko parang ibang klaseng mga pangalan. Merck, alam ko may Ronnie Merck, merong Richard Merck, pero yung Sharp, merong electronics company, pero yung Dome, Araneta Dome lang ang alam ko.
Well, I mean, like Merck Sharp and Dome, we are a wholly owned subsidiary of the U.S. company, Merck and Company. If you go back to history, over 125 years ago, there was only one Merck family, right? And they were all coming from Germany. But there was a group or a branch of the family that moved over to New Jersey. And during the course of history and the course of the wars, lalo na World War I, they had to declare their independence from the German company. So they started calling themselves now Merck and Company within US and Canada. But internationally, because nauna yung sa Germany, we have to call ourselves Merck, Sharp, and Dome because these are companies that had merged with the company through the years. So now, outside of the US, outside of North America, we're called MSD or Merck, Sharp, and Dome.
Okay, many companies, particularly pharmaceutical companies, they're not so much known for their name, but for their medicine or for their products. Ngayon, yung MSD, ano ba yung iconic products ng MSD in the Philippines? Sa pag sinabi mong ganitong product, alam ko yan, ginagamit ko yan.
Well, probably our leading product right now is Keytruda. This is an anti-cancer drug. We're very, very proud of it. It's changing the landscape of the management of cancer. Can you imagine lung cancer patients we're actually able to double their lifespan of up to 5 years? That's that kind of a product. Then we have, of course, our Koksha, our pain reliever. Fantastic drug in terms of relief of pain. And then our diabetes products, Januvia Janamet, for those who have for whom it's potentially helpful in diabetes.
Pakiulit nga.
Vaccines.
Beaver,
Vaccines pa.
okay, Beaver, pakiulit nga yung sa diabetes kasi alam ko marami tayong viewer na diabetic para alam nila yung gamot nyo.
Well, we did, syempre, I have to straddle, hindi tayo mag-direct to consumer advertising, right?
Sorry, I realized that.
There's this class of drugs that we were able to rapidly develop back in 2004, 2007 timeframe, the DPP-4 inhibitors. We found it an extremely helpful type of drug that can actually control sugar without forcing you to go into hypoglycemia, yung sobrang bagsak naman yung blood sugar. So we're now the leading brand in the country in terms of the diabetes products in that particular class of drug.
Okay, now what is it like running a pharmaceutical company under the current situation? Kasi parang marami expected na, wow, tiba-tiba kayo, bonanza kayo, puro sakit ang tao. Puro kasakit ng ulo.
The last one's correct. Panay sakit ng ulo. Because really, it's every day is an adventure. I mean, like, we're all human beings, right? We're all subject to the stresses of COVID. So we all have to go through, we have to protect our employees, make sure they're all safe and they actually can do their work safely. So marami sa amin naka-work from home right now. Now, in terms of the business, syempre, I mean, like, right now, the whole industry has contracted by initially over 15%, over 10%. Now, in 1 month alone, another 15% compared to last year. So hirap ang industry right now. The only part or segment of the business that's really growing are the vitamins. Yan lang
Okay.
talaga. Because that's what people hoarded up on. They actually hoarded up a lot of the vitamins and continue to take that. The other parts of the business, lalo na yung mga hospital care products, intravenous antibiotics, surgical anesthetics, etc. Lahat yan bagsak. Lahat yan bagsak ngayon.
So why? One would assume na there would be a big demand because of people getting sick, especially with COVID. You're saying all of that are down. Why?
It's all down because really the COVID wards there are a few things that can be used for the COVID patients, right? Limited selection of drugs for COVID patients. Now, when you look at the non-COVID part of the hospital, That's where the business totally collapsed. Why?
Mhm.
Patients are so afraid of the hospital. I
True.
have cousins, I have siblings who refuse to come near a hospital because they're
Mhm.
so afraid of COVID, not realizing that hospitals have really put in very strict protocols for health to
Mhm.
separate the COVID patients from the non-COVID patients.
Yeah.
So pretty much the hospital is actually a pretty good place where if you have a non-COVID illness and need to see somebody, please, by all means, consult your physician.
Okay, now as far as business models go, what sort of process do your products? Kasi di ba right now napapag-usapan yung mga Abvigan, Remdesivir, etc. And
Mhm.
people are saying, ano ba naman? Eh si Trump nga pinainom na kung ano-ano. Bakit tayo dito nang huhula pa tayo then puro mga testing, testing, testing. What sort of discipline or process does a company like MSD undertake before they even or before you even bring out products to the Philippines?
Well, for example, in this COVID era, we are
Mm.
aggressively studying treatments for active COVID patients and, of
Mhm.
course, our vaccines. But
Okay.
underlying all of this, which obviously the first thing we'll ask ourselves is, does it have a glimmer of hope?
Mm.
Does it have the potential to work? And then we will now go through the different phases of clinical trials, may phase one, may phase two and three, before we finally release it to the market. Why? We're trying to test first and foremost for safety.
Mm.
Lalo sa bakuna, especially in vaccines, you need to be safe. You need to be absolutely sure that your vaccine doesn't actually make things worse.
Mhm.
And you have to make sure that it actually works, right? You need to demonstrate that it works. So, which is why you have to go through phase two and phase three type of clinical trials. Now, in the case of Mr. Trump, I guess, syempre, he is the president, and people were so concerned whether or not he might not make it. So they threw the
Mhm.
kitchen sink at him. They threw everything at him.
Mhm.
Whether whether it was warranted or not, we don't know because, syempre, we don't have all the details that normally other administrations have given.
Yeah.
So all I can say is, wow, they threw everything in the kitchen sink at him. Good luck. I certainly hope he does well.
Yeah. Well, how is MSD doing as far as your vaccine research is concerned? Because last I heard from Anthony Fauci, akala mo kilala, no? Pero no, but I was watching him recently, and he was saying that there are a number of companies that are now on phase three clinical trials where thousands of individuals are being vaccinated and
Right.
monitored. What about MSD?
We have our own candidates. In fact, we have two vaccine candidates that we're
Mhm.
already launching the phase 2 to 3 studies. I know
Okay.
kakasimula lang namin ng phase 1 so that you have to give it at least 30 to 60 days to monitor for side effects. Then after that, you now move into phase 2 and 3 because the phase 1 is important for the safety aspect in particular, right? And to see
Mhm.
what kind of side effects can be picked up or seen kagad. Then you move into phase 2 where you now start trying to figure out what is the right dose, how much particles are you going to inject before you finally move into these huge phase 3 trials where you can easily have at least 60,000 patients enrolled. Now, so MSD or Merck, we're still in the phase 1 area, phase 1 to 2 area.
Mhm.
Companies such as Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Moderna, these companies are already in phase 3. So they're really seeing now the potential for side effects coming through. I think AstraZeneca got hit by a potential side effect, which apparently may not necessarily be due to the vaccine, but
Mm.
nagkataon lang.
Yeah.
But US FDA has not yet agreed to them resuming their trial. Everywhere else in the world, nag-resume na ata yung AstraZeneca. I just saw the last report being Japan has
Yeah.
finally agreed to resume the study in their territories. So really, I mean, like, sunod-sunod yan eh. J&J is also at the tail end of the first 3 leading. Kami, where I think we're probably in the second wave.
Okay. Now, are we going to see clinical trials in the Philippines? Kasi parang nakita ko they stopped the planned trials in Cavite of a certain company. So I said, what's going on? Akala ko papunta na sa Pilipinas. And if if the time comes, when the time comes that MSD has its product, are you going to have to beg your home office na ambunan ka naman? Katulad yung sa automotive. Hindi, kasi sa automotive industry, pag may nilalabas na mga high-end or magagandang products, parang swerte ka na pag binigyan ka ng 3 o 10 sa Pilipinas. But sa vaccine, they're saying na America muna and then the rest of the world can wait in line.
One of the commitments of our company is that, one, it will be widely available, and two, it will be affordable. I
Okay.
think that's the recognition of our company over the seriousness of this pandemic. So that's been the very clear statement that our CEO has released. So I'm very eager to get the vaccine if I can get it myself, right? Or even for myself and my employees. But syempre, we have to go through all the processes first to make sure that the vaccine actually works and is actually quite safe. Now, in terms of the clinical trials going on here in the country, yes, we will definitely be launching clinical trials of our own. Obviously, I can't tell you the timelines yet because that's we have to go through certain hoops, Muna, to make sure that all the regulatory approvals are in place. That's the most critical part of doing a clinical trial in the Philippines. We have great doctors, great investigators who can run studies. Marami magagaling dito sa Pilipinas. Ang issue is whether or not the protocol or the dossier has been approved by regulatory. They are convinced that the safety profile up to that point is acceptable or even quite good before we actually roll out the studies. Now, that study in Cavite, I'm not sure what's going on there. I haven't followed, but it might be they have been related to this global pause in their trial,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they've resumed. I don't know if they managed to resume already.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I know you wear 2 hats. You are president and director of MSD and also president of the Association of Pharmaceutical Companies. Now, so I want to craft this carefully because I'm not picking a fight with anybody or making any insinuations. But given with everything that's happened during COVID-19, the pressure, the demand, the urgency, desperation for medicines, treatment, and vaccine. How do you see the landscape, particularly for MSD in the Philippines? Is there a need to study and change the regulatory protocol process of introducing medicines and registering medicines in the Philippines? Kasi parang the impression I got talking to other experts is that while the government is doing a great job, very little budget funding and personnel have been made available to fast track pati raw yung mga testing and research, parang bitin na bitin. So nagkaka-traffic pati doon sa pagpasok ng bagong medicine sa Pilipinas.
You strike a very sensitive chord nga, Cito, and I fully agree that the landscape has dramatically changed. Like I said earlier, the industry has contracted 10-15%. So that has implications to business. The regulatory environment, the policy environment has been very unstable, at least from our perspective, where instead of implementing the regimes that are already available in the Universal Healthcare Law or the National Integrated Cancer Care Act, the government has chosen the route of price controls. Of course, we continue to negotiate with them regarding that because there's so many other things available. Now, in terms of the regulatory aspect, I have to commend the FDA and working closely with ARTA that they've been actually managing to streamline a lot of their processes. A lot of stuff is now digital. So digital submissions are now accepted for many of the applications or many of the approvals that we seek. The turnaround time seems to be much faster. We are able to at least get word out that something has been delayed for some time. Could they take a look at it? And they actually respond. So that's a great thing that we've seen. I think that was COVID-induced. Siyempre, there was all these concerns about potentially infecting each other when we go into that crowded office of the FDA, even the satellite facility where they were accepting all these applications, napaka-crowded and the ventilation was pretty bad, right? So I think people realize that safety became a paramount importance, so digital became the way to move forward. And I really hope that post-COVID, as we emerge from this crisis, we continue to learn from these lessons and continue to apply them with the way we do things with the FDA. So
Okay,
that's happening, yeah.
Okay, so what about MSD? Because if you have a 10 to 15% contraction in the industry, what about MSD in the Philippines? What's the scenario like? What are your plans?
Well, for now, we're managing to keep our heads above water. Right? It's been a struggle. It's been a struggle. Let's not make any bones about it. It's been a struggle, but we definitely need to be able to manage our expenses, yet at the same time be able to reach our doctors and patients to make sure that they actually still have product available for them. We have to work closely with our logistics to make sure that we are able to import in time so that we can distribute widely. We've been quite fortunate that the team has been quite aggressive in terms of being able to manage these difficult scenarios. So far we're coming out okay. It's not all doom and gloom, but it's obviously not the successes of the past years, right? There are ups and downs, and we're in the downswing right now. But I'm sure that as the situation improves, we'll be able to climb out of this hole again.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I have to ask you my last question because it's been so educational, I lost track of time. But final question as a PHAP president, I remember your group had given a proposal to the DOH to help them manage their stockpiling, their inventory, etc. during the attempts to negotiate your transactions and purchases. Now, the news is that the COA flagged the DOH because of unused supplies, and the DOH said, no, that's not accurate. So clearly, the annual problem of stockpile and oversupply is still there. Is your offer to help them manage and regulate their stockpiling still on the table?
Di ba may kanta? Call me. Yes, definitely on the table. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a taxpayer. We all are aghast at all of these problems. We want the DOH to be successful, right? But so let's work together. That's all I can say about that.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it at that. And I do hope we get a second chance at talking medicine and talking healthcare in the country. I'm sorry I've run out of time, Beaver. But as always, very informative and good to know that MSD is keeping its head above the water in the most turbulent and challenging of times. And I'm sure you've got a lot to do about that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Dr. Beaver Tamesis, and alam niyo po, it's always nice to talk to someone who's still jovial, very positive, and it's not easy running a pharmaceutical company nowadays. Binigyan ka na ng, tinira kayo ng price control, tapos yung mga negosyo o pinagkikitahan ninyo o binibenta nyo hindi mabenta because nobody wants to go to the hospitals. People have shifted more to vitamins and nutritional products. So, yun po, no? In any case, that's all the time we have here on Agenda. Please keep on praying. Please keep on being thankful. Have an attitude of gratitude because more than anything, that is going to keep you positive. God bless all of you. It's been a great day. Take care.